Welcome to Musikpalast! Today I will start a series of videos giving homage to the most influential video game composers. If you're a regular on my channel, I guess it was obvious I had to start with Nobuo Uematsu. Nobuo Uematsu is a Japanese composer born in 1959, best known for his overall work with Square Enix, most notably from the Final Fantasy franchise. At the age of 12, he started playing the piano without taking any formal piano lessons. His only help was from his older sister. He then went on to play keyboard in multiple bands and composing music for TV commercials. This was mainly a hobby for him at the time, and even when he joined Square later on, he thought of it as a side job at the beginning. He started working for Squaresoft in 1985 at the age of 26. His first soundtrack was for Cruise Chaser Blasty that came out the very next year. He continued composing music for them for the next year with releases like Rad Racer, Alpha, and Aliens. It wasn't until December of 1987, with the release of Final Fantasy, that his life changed forever. From Final Fantasy's popularity, his part-time job became his career, and he was asked to continue working on the next games from the series. His success brought him as well some other opportunities, for example becoming a part of other popular franchises like Chrono Trigger and Front Mission. After 10 installments of Final Fantasy main series, he left Square Enix in 2004 to form his own company called Smile Please. The main reason for this wasn't artistic or any actual dispute between the two parties, but the fact that Square Enix moved their offices to another part of Tokyo and he wasn't feeling comfortable in the new location within Tokyo. Nobuo kept on making music for Square Enix as a freelancer for years to come in many of the Final Fantasy games released after this departure. During this time, he worked with multiple companies such as Mistwalker, Idea Factory, Level 5, and even Nintendo. As a freelancer, he helped with several Final Fantasy projects, such as composing the main theme for Final Fantasy XII. And recently, he was involved in the composing and arranging process for Final Fantasy VII Remake. He also tipped his toes into the anime world, working not only with Final Fantasy, as many of you may know, but also with Fairy Tail, among others. During this time, he also founded several rock bands. Some of them were the Black Mages and the Earthbound Papas. Now let's talk about his musical style. He has a really recognizable type of composing. His mix between classical music and progressive rock comes apparent in some of his works like One Winged Angel and Dancing Mad. He has talked in the past about some of his biggest influences being Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Pink Floyd, Yes, The Beatles and King Crimson, among others. Personally, I think his use of the organ in pieces like Dancing Mad clearly show how Emerson, Lake and Palmer shaped him as a composer. Other notable features from progressive rock that could also be attributed to Nobuo Uematsu's composing are the use of unusual scales and odd time signatures. Talking about unusual scales, I always thought that the Shinra melody from Final Fantasy VII had a certain similarity to the song Red from King Crimson. Probably because of the use of a major seventh in a minor or diminished context. An Easter egg is that he also has stated that the name of his band, the Earthbound Papas, was inspired from a King Crimson album called Earthbound, released in 1972. His connection to rock is easy to find on his soundtracks. For example, some of his Final Fantasy songs like Still More Fighting. From the classical point of view, he has said his favorite classical composers were Tchaikovsky and Ravel. In a Polygon interview, he stated that One-Winged Angel was also inspired by Rite of Spring from Stravinsky, and that he used a particular compositional method where he would compose 2 measures of a certain melody each day and then put them all together. This way, he manages to get a much crazier structure for the song instead of the usual verse and chorus type of structure. Now let's listen to some of his most famous work. This is probably his biggest composition, One-Winged Angel. I also have a video analyzing this song on my channel. Check it out if you're interested. Here we have the Final Fantasy Prelude as an iconic piece that is shared across all Final Fantasy games. And at last we have the Chocobo theme. This theme has been reworked multiple times throughout the whole Final Fantasy franchise. That is all for today. Hope you enjoyed, and please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't. Have a nice day and see you next time.